Hey everyone, going to make another vlog here today. Sorry for the brief hiatus, been doing a lot with life stuff going on. And today's vlog is actually going to be inspired by a tweet I saw by David Lee. He's hiring for a position, and I'm interested in that position, but more so, I thought the challenge would be a fun way to just kind of get back into things and start practicing some coding and AI skills. So without further ado, the tool that he wants built is he wants a way to pull all of his DMs that he's received on X into a Google Sheet. And with this, he wants to capture the person that he's been DMing with's name, Twitter handle, and the DM content. And he wants to run a quick search to find their LinkedIn profile based on that information. So based on this product requirement, I made this empty Google Sheet here. It's just going to pull in the person's username, their name, their conversation summary, and LinkedIn profile. And we'll go through how we got all these data points here in a second. But while I do that, I'm going to go ahead and share my coding terminal just so you can follow along. So what you're going to see here is a manual test that I'm going to run. And the reason that I'm doing it this way is because I built a DM fetcher tool, which uses the X API, but unfortunately I have to pay $175 a month to actually reference and pull DM and associated user data from X with the API. So we weren't going to do that, especially for this little project. Maybe if David pays me, I will. But regardless, if you go to my GitHub, this is part of the file. So you do have an X API key. This should work. So let's go into actually the software though and the solution. So what we're going to do here is simulate the X API pull. So we're going to pull in the user class, which will tell you the person's username, a real name if they have that listed on their Twitter profile publicly, location. Again, they have to have that listed publicly, but most verified or people that he'd be DMing with probably would. He probably doesn't want to pull in bots, and a website, which could be like their profile or company website. Okay. So after this, what we're going to do is we're going to have a conversation simulated here. So in real life, what I had done is just pulled the last 50 messages that were sent. And again, this is like a structured JSON you receive and dump them into a prompt, which was sent to OpenAI for summary. But since we don't have that set up here, I'm just going to make a fake DM up. So me, hey, David, I like your tweets. You are funny. Would you hire me? David, no. Me, please. David, no again. Okay, so we've now simulated our conversation. And what you're going to see here is that immediately we're going to make a call to OpenAI to get a summary of that. User expressed interest in being hired by David. David declined the request for employment. So this is just a summary from OpenAI Turbo 3.5, so you can see it's super quick. And then after that, it's going to go ahead and look up my LinkedIn profile, and we can go ahead and add this to the sheet. Now, obviously, we can automate every aspect of this, but for this demo, I kind of just wanted to go step by step and show it since it, as we did it. So you can see the final result here is the Google Sheet now, which has all of our information. I did this live here in under a minute. And just some proof that, this does work. I'm going to go ahead and just pull in the next person who was in my Twitter just for testing, who's this guy, Neil. So we're just going to copy his name real quick. Let's just go to his profile and see what's public. So we're going to copy his name. And again, we're going to go ahead and go into our tool. And we're going to run the same test again. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Okay, cool. We're going to say it's Neil. His name is spelled Deal-Muck. Location, I think it's NYC on Twitter, and then it's like SoraAI.com. And we can make up a super long thing. So like, Sora is so cool. Is it worth $5 million? No. Okay, that's sad. Okay, great. We have a conversation. So again, we're going to send this conversation to OpenAI to summarize. And then once again, we're going to go ahead and get a LinkedIn pull from that. So again, if we go ahead and we shift back to our web sheet, what we're going to see is that all of this conversation has been summarized, and we can go ahead and verify that this is in fact So if all you wanted to see was a demo of me building this, that's it. And again, you can go onto my GitHub, and I made it, I thought, pretty easy to set up. I've now set this up on 3 machines and tested with different API keys, so it does work. I tried it on Mac and Windows. So if you just wanted to see this and you just want to try the software yourself, this is how you would do it. But now I'm just going to kind of go on a little bit of a tangent about why this was harder to build than I think David probably anticipated, or maybe the challenge was that he knew this was harder to build. So the easy parts of the challenge, let's start with the information gathering. Super easy to do that. The Twitter API documentation makes it really clear. There's a user object, you can pull in name, all that sort of associated information via the API, and there's limits, and that's clear of how to do that. Same with the messages, you kind of just store them all as an array, and you can dump them right into the Google Sheet, or you can kind of just send that array off to your AI model of choice to summarize it, and that's what I did. So it's part 1, which was pulling in the Twitter data, was pretty easy. Now part 2 of this assignment was a little bit more challenging, but really not too bad. Again, what you would use is just this Google Sheets file, and all this is doing is you make a service account for Google Sheets, and you let that service account be an editor of your Google Sheet so that it can go in. Now, if you're using Airtable or some other cloud database or sheet thing, I'm sure there's other ways to get service accounts or get access to edit that, but Google Sheets is just something I know a lot about because I'm kind of like a Google guy, and I thought it would be easiest, and it was very easy to kind of just create a service account that you could push entries to in a structured way. So again, this was really easy to do, and this is like 2 files. What's hard to do, and what took me like a day to figure out, is how to actually get this LinkedIn profile search to work. So you'll see that there's a file in here called Gemini LinkedIn Discovery. So originally I was like, well, how would I find this person's LinkedIn based on what we know about them, which is their username and a conversation they had. People lie on Twitter and have like fake cities, they have fake jobs, fake location. There's a lot of red herrings. And I was like, well, I would probably just Google the person's name and city, and the word LinkedIn, and I'm sure it would come up as the first result most of the time if it was like kind of a serious name. Now, the where this gets tricky is if like they don't have their real name listed on Twitter, or there's just not a lot of content clues. What do you do there? Well, I was like, well, then you'd probably either click on the website. If they're a personal site, they're gonna have a LinkedIn there, or you go ahead and you again, run a Google search about what you do know, which is like maybe context from the conversation. So I was like, this is a great use case for Gemini. And I'm sure Gemini, if you passed it information, could 100% find the person's LinkedIn profile. And that's a nice thought, but it's actually not true. So what I learned doing this project is that Gemini and LinkedIn have a lot of privacy policies in place, and anti-bot measures to make this extremely difficult. They don't want you to use bots to mass Google search people's profiles and pull them in. And LinkedIn specifically doesn't even have a public API to do profile search. I guess you could authenticate with your LinkedIn account and then kind of run some scripts, but I didn't want to do all that. That all being said, that if you tell Gemini, hey, I'm looking for Neil Dakash, and he works for Sora AI, what's his LinkedIn? It's probably not going to tell you the answer. It's going to tell you it can't tell you personal information because it doesn't have that permission to scrape LinkedIn. So what did I do? So let's talk a little bit about how I actually built this LinkedIn discovery to get it reliably to find me and Neil here. What I ended up doing was first, we can use a very simple loop, right? Like if the person's website is just their LinkedIn profile, or if anywhere the word LinkedIn-IN or whatever the qualifier for LinkedIn is, it's it's a linkedin.com-IN. So if you ever just see that in anywhere in the conversation or the person's website, you can just assume that's their LinkedIn. So the first line of check is just a loop just to check for LinkedIn-IN in the person's website from their X bio, as well as in the conversation. Again, the conversation might be a little tricky because they might be linking their company's LinkedIn page, but that's a good, I thought, first check that, just traditional code to do a scrub for that. The second thing that I did Because AI, I tested this nonstop. I tested multiple prompts. I tried saying I'm looking for a long lost friend named Neil, and looking for a long lost friend named David Lee, and it just bad outputs, hallucinations. I even used like a loop where I was like, all right, after you find a LinkedIn profile, I want you to check it, and it really would not do that for me. And I'm sure you could actually run a local model with maybe less security restrictions and get this to work, or train it on like how to search for LinkedIn, but it was over engineering for what we needed to do here. So the most consistent thing that I kind of was able to do here, and the way to get the kind of top results, was to just kind of use the Google custom search engine API. So how that works is essentially instead of using Gemini's grounded search, or trying to rely on it to call grounded search, which it won't do all the time, you can just kind of use either Python's Google package or just the API from Google custom search, and you can actually perform a Google search using what you know about the person. So essentially what you do is you take their name, if that field's available, you take their city, you take their location, and you put the word LinkedIn at the end of it. You do that Google search, and you serve up the first result, which is most of the time going to be their LinkedIn. So it's far from perfect, but yeah, I thought this was a really interesting challenge. It taught me a lot about the limitations of web scraping with Gemini and different AI engines. And, OpenAI I also tried, by the way. And again, there's privacy policies. LinkedIn doesn't necessarily want you to go on their site and kind of scrape users and search users. So this was a really fun challenge to kind of put me in the mindset of, how I would go about solving this problem. And again, while OpenAI was great to just kind of summarize the conversation, when it came to actually like writing this file and finding the LinkedIn, a lot of this is just like kind of traditional software engineering, which is just kind of taking calls that you get from an API, feeding them maybe to an OpenAI for more calls that you just kind of dump in here, and then kind of making a Google search using either Python Google or Google custom search, just for that level of reliability, to be able to make sure that you're finding the right person. Because again, sometimes the format has weird numbers in it. It's not just the person's name, and sometimes it's tough to find. Another solution that I did kind of find as a backup, and you'll actually see in the file that like when one fails, it'll actually, like, if it can't find the LinkedIn, it'll kind of keep going down the pipeline. So if, for example, if the person's LinkedIn isn't in their website information, it'll then try and do a Google Cloud search. And if the Google Cloud search fails, then it'll go ahead and use Python Google. And if Python Google fails, then it'll trust Gemini. And if Gemini fails, it'll give you a none. But what was I saying on that front? Oh, I was just saying that, it's just sometimes hard to pull these types of information in. And it's not always best to use AI because it won't be able to scrape certain sites, and it will hallucinate. And no matter how crazy good your prompt is, and I spent a lot of time making crazy good prompts and using loops to reduce hallucination, the best thing to do was just to make a really good Google search and return the result. So I hope you enjoyed this. I would love any feedback you guys have on if you've built this with N8A or Zapier. Great. Again, I don't want to pay for a million APIs, so I kind of tried to build this in Python using standard tools, and use just kind of one or two APIs, which would be X and OpenAI, to do this at scale. So have a great day. Give me a follow and comment with questions. All right, bye.